Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today we are going to be using the Happy Haunting Stencils and Dies. There is another set, this is the Forest Floor, that is very similar to this, that you could do the same thing with, but I thought it was really cool because this set doesn't actually have any stamps. So it is the layering stencils and then the coordinating dies. So we're going to do 3 different cards with basically the same supplies. Of course, there are some like extras that are added in there. But I just think the whole idea is very interesting. So one of the layers in this particular stencil set is this spider web. So I'm going to use it with the white pigment ink from Honeybee and one of their blending brushes, and I'm going to put that on just over some black cardstock to create a really kind of fun background. And then I'm going to set this aside to dry because pigment ink takes much longer to dry than dye ink does. Then from there, I'm going to use that same brush. It has the white pigment ink on it, and I'm just laying it down only so that I know where to line it up. And this is for, I put it where the ghosts and where the moon goes, and then that's it. I'm going to switch over to these, I think they're called Belux blending brushes. They are a bit smaller, and this is because I want to create a multicolor background without having to go in and mask everything. So I just use some of the smaller blending brushes. They have 3 different sizes, 5, a 7, and a 10, I think is the way that they label them. Like a small, a medium, and a large. You get what I'm saying. So I did use those, but any places where I could get away with using a larger brush, I absolutely did. There's this, they're like little diamonds or little star pattern inside when you do the full stencil. And so for some of them, I did the salvage patina, which is the same color I did for the clouds. But I also did some with the wilted violet and with the, what was it, mowed lawn, I think. So just so that there was a variety of color in the background. I think oftentimes when you think of Halloween, like orange and black are very traditional Halloween colors. But I think over the years, like purple and green have kind of snuck their way in there to be like more Halloweenish kind of colors. But you could obviously do this with any, just like with your Christmas cards, you can mix it up and throw pinks in there or purples or whatever. You could do non-traditional. The style of this, which should be obvious by its name, the Happy Haunting, is very cute. So if you have littles yourself or if you have grandkids, this would be a very cute set to make them cards with. My mom, I know, always gets my kids like a Halloween card, just as a little something that she kind of does for them. I don't even think she puts anything in it. Well, she might. Maybe she just doesn't. Maybe she just doesn't tell me. That seems like a very Nana thing to do. And grandma. But anywho, so I just went through and, did the little diamonds, a variety of colors, just so it would be kind of sporadic throughout the pattern. I didn't really have a rhyme or reason to the way, like, where I added the green versus the blue versus the purple. But for the stencil here, I didn't add any extra shading. I only just shaded with the distress inks. And then I just let it be a super cute background because that's what it is. It's adorable. If you are somebody who likes Halloween, like, they are great, and the stencils are really easy to line up. Because if you've never used a Honeybee stencil before, they're all on clear, like they're cut out of clear, but then they're etched. So the full design is etched into all of the stencils, so you can line them up really easily. The last layer here that I'm doing is just all of the black, and I'm using that for the bats, for the mouths, like the jack-o'-lantern faces, and then the faces on the ghost as well. And then I think this also colors the edge of the candies and, of course, the hat. So I just went through, I did them all black. And again, if you wanted to like really bump this up, if you remember the palm tree scene, it was a layering stencil scene that Honeybee came out with over the summer, where we went back in and kind of like really kind of bolstered up the shading. Here, just quickly, what I'm doing is I'm using the the blending brush from the black, and I am just very lightly going over like the ghost and the moon, just so that it has a little bit more shading so that you could see it. And then here, this is that same spider web that I did on the black background. You could do this before or after. After, I'm going to be honest with you, is a little bit more of a risk. If any of your ink is still wet, you may, run into like where you pick it up and it's not as light. But I use the salvage patina and then just put that, that spider web real soft in the background. So now I said there were dies, and so I'm going to do a second pattern. This is obviously sped up quite a bit, but it matches the first pattern. And I'm going to do this for all of my die cut pieces. So this is not something where I'm looking to use the full piece, but that is why I cut this. I think it's a 6x6 is what I cut out, so I could get as many of the pieces as I could, the candy corns and the pumpkins and all of that. So that way I can go through with the dies and cut them out. So I look at what I did. I totally bumped it. It wasn't stuck down to my sticky mat. So that one, like I tried to make do. If you watch my channel, you've probably heard me say like everything is fixable. That one that kind of looked like the cover of Scream, like where it was like moving, like the ghost is moving, which could be a really cool effect, but was not the effect I was going for. I did not end up using that one. I did have to create another ghost that I could cut out. So that's what you see me doing here is like going back in there and trying to put mouths on the other one to see if I can make them work. So these are the dies, and they cut out each of the elements. I don't believe that there's any elements in the background outside of the little diamond pieces that you can't cut out. They have the moon, both of the pumpkins, the candy corn, the witch's hat, the 2 different sized bats, and 2 different ghosts. But I think these are really great. I think layering stencils are really, really popular right now because they're an easy way to add color and have it be, like attainable results that anybody can get. So I'm just taping these in place and then I'll run them through my die cutting machine. But I think that it's a faster way to card make. Here, I wanted to show you that if you don't want to do, let's say you're just trying to do a card that is like a bunch of pumpkins or a bunch of ghosts, and you're like, I don't want the witch's hat or the bats or anything like that. So you can die cut first and then line them up with the stencil and apply the color. So you don't have to build out the whole background. You can just pick out what elements that you want for your card and then find the coordinating stencil that has that open part and add your shading that way. So it's pretty versatile about what you can do with it. And this actually worked out really nicely for me because I had intended on making more than one card, but I didn't necessarily need to do all of the full backgrounds. So as you can see in that top right there, some of them that are already die cut out. Those are the full backgrounds that we did. And these were just extra pieces that I needed that I just cut out of white and then went through and added the additional color to. So because I am me and I can't leave anything alone, while I did not add any extra coloring to the background, I am going to add some to the die cuts so that way they stand out a little bit more from the background. So first things first, I went in with some purple. There's very little purple just on the hat band. I colored that as if it was a central natural highlight. And I'm going to do the same thing for the candies. On one of the candies, the polka dots are purple, and on the other one, the base of the wrapper is purple and the polka dots are orange. So I am going to add shading to both, but I'm going to add the shading so that it's darker around the edges and lighter as it gets to the center, because that's going to help give it a more round appearance, which if with this type of candy is typically what you would see. They're, they look like Tootsie Rolls or something like that. But I don't actually have any Tootsie Rolls in my house. It's funny, even now, my son is 11, but back when he was young, we still don't even know how he got it. You guys have probably heard the story before, so I'll spare you the details. But anyway, he choked on a Tootsie Roll at my parents' on Thanksgiving, and I'm still traumatized. I'm still traumatized a decade later. So my sister came over the other day, and she had come straight from my mom's, and she was eating a Tootsie Pop, which I knew my mom, I knew it came from my mom's house because I had just been over there the other day and I had saw them on her kitchen table. And Jelly Bean was like, Aunt Michelle, can I have some of your sucker? And I was like, absolutely not. No. Absolutely not. We have other suckers here. They do not have Tootsie Rolls in the center of them. As far as I'm concerned, she's not going to eat them until she's 30. Just no. So anyway, for the shading, I didn't go crazy out of control. I just, added 1 or 2 colors just to help them be more of a focal point. So, for the pumpkins, I just kind of went all the way around the edge with the darkest color, and then, just used the mid-tone, or the lightest color in this case, because I only used 2, to just blend it out. Same thing with the candy corn. For the items that are black, I did use 3 colors, with black being the darkest. And this is because, if you want something to look black, you have to have black in it. And 2 of them, which is true, you guys could do this as well if you didn't want to have to do any of the stenciling. 2 of the bats I just cut out of black cardstock, just like with the ghost. I just cut them out of white cardstock and stenciled on their faces. But if you do want to do the shading, which is more interesting to look at, you could do the stenciling first, which is going to be a lighter black, and then go in and add the shading with the markers, which help to give it a lot more dimension. And I did the same thing with the bats that I stenciled. I added the shading kind of from the bottom up, so that way they would also have shading. The ones that I cut out of black cardstock, I did not add shading to, because realistically you wouldn't be able to see it. The other thing I did with the black marker was I added a little bit of darkness to, you saw me do it with the pumpkins, to their eyes. And then again with the ghosts, I did the same thing. I added just a little bit of darkness to their eyes and their mouth. Again, this is just going to help give them a little bit more dimension. For their bodies, I just did a C3 and a C1. They're both cool grays. And I just did a line along, one of them I did the back left and then the bottom right. And then the other one I did the top right and then the bottom left. This is just going to give them a little bit more dimension, adding in that shadow. And it's hard to see when it's on my glass mat, but once we put them on the background, I think it's really, really apparent, and it makes a huge difference in giving them some sort of dimension. So even though it's an extra step to take, I feel like it's an extra step that's really worth it. So for the moon, I did just a little, same grays, the C3 and the C1, just a little bit of a shadow, kind of a little inset on the bottom left. And then for the clouds, I added some shading with a lighter blue. And then those are done. We set those aside. And for the cards, 2 of them have a very similar design, a similar layout, they are that center focal point so that you don't lose the background. And these originally were the first 2 that I was just going to create 2. This pattern is a little bit busy, but because I'm cheap, I'm not going to throw away the circle. I am going to use it. I also found a white circle in my stash, but you could absolutely cut it, you know, and then keep the negative portion just in your stash to use it another time. But I used both of those, and then these were the leftover pieces that I have. Can you see how much that shading adds to those ghosts? So since I had these leftover pieces, I was like, I absolutely could do a third card. So I just arranged them how I wanted to arrange them, and then I picked it up with the press and seal so that I could do the background. Now for the background, in that Happy Halloween set, which is where I got the sentiment from, as well as the spider that hangs down, there is a stamp that is a spider web. So you could use that and it would already be included in the set. But for the texture part of it, which I thought would be more interesting since I was doing a white background, I did end up using the 3D embossing folder that is the spider web. And I really was a big fan of that because it just adds so much interest to this white card background. For the sentiments, I wasn't committed to using white or black. I didn't know how I wanted to do it. So I basically stamped them both. I also stamped a larger spider and then one that was that was kind of like dropping down, because again, I didn't know what I was going to use. Which ones is it? The Hey Boo and the Have a Spooky Good Halloween is from the Hocus Pocus set, which is a sentiment set that came out last year or a year before. But if you watch my videos, you know, like, I'm a big fan of mixing new and old. I think that's something that's really important so that we're constantly using our stash. And so getting new things doesn't mean that we have to forget about the old. If we get new things, we can incorporate them with the old things that we have that we still love. So here, I treated with my anti-static tool. I am stamping it in our Be Creative white pigment ink. The Hey Boo one, basically the only one that I didn't know if I wanted white or black for was the one with the black spiderweb background. I knew I wanted the Happy Halloween in black, and I knew I wanted the Hey Boo in white. So that one in between is the only one I was like, I'm not 100% sure about you. And I ended up going with the black on white. But anyway, so these also have coordinating dies. I used those to cut out my sentiments, including the Happy Halloween. I don't think I showed that part to you, but also, maybe I did. Oh yeah, see here I did. But then also the spiders as well. Not that I mean, you guys know, if you've been around my channel for at least the last couple of years, that I'm not a big fan of spiders, but they fit a little Halloween scene. They do. And these are cute little cards that either I can give to my mom or my mother-in-law to give to the kids, or I could choose to give them to the kids. But anyway, so I have the nesting circles. What are they called? No, they're not called stacks. I don't know. I'll link them below. I can't remember what Honeybee calls theirs. Nesting? I'm not positive. Anyway, I used the circle to cut out, or the white one that was already in my stash, but there would have been a white one that I could have cut out. And then I added 2 little ghosts and the moon with the clouds. I thought about it after the fact, and I was like, oh, well, I could have added some spatters for stars or something onto the blue. But I already had so much going on with the background, with the stencil in the background, that I decided that I would just add some gemstones to kind of fill in that space. And that would work out just fine for me. So that is what I did. The one that I ended up using, do I know? Yes, I do. It is the Sweet and Spooky Pearl stickers. Oh, and I did add this with foam, because I think that just makes everything more interesting if you can pop it up on foam tape. So that is what I'm doing there. And then I will add the There's two different like blues in this particular one. There is a light blue and a dark blue. These are just such pretty colors for Halloween in the little pearl thing. They have one in gemstones too. But so I ended up going with the dark blue for this card because I already had that you know, in the background and then also in the clouds. So I used those to kind of accent my sentiment and then fill in that portion. And then the whole thing was popped up. Like I didn't need to add anything underneath the ghost because it was really just their tails that kind of stuck out. But I did add some glitter to my ghosts as well as my moon and my clouds and some white highlights as well. And then that one was finished. So I think it's really a cute card. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't always make cute stuff, but I do appreciate cute stuff. So for this one, because I do really feel like popping things up on foam can add so much to a card, I decided that I was going to pop up the black portion. Now this is trimmed down just slightly smaller than an A2 size card, and that is so I can get an 1/8 border around the edge, you know, just to tie in that kind of white piece. And then I'm going to pop all of this up on foam. And in order to make sure that I'll be able to like wiggle it around if I need to, if I can't get it lined up right, I am going to add some liquid adhesive to my foam tape. I do prefer to stand up and then look at it down, like look down directly at it so that I can get it even with the border on the outside edge. And then from here, I kind of arranged my items how I wanted them to be, knowing that I was probably going to have to do kind of a middle of the road thing. So here what I'm doing is I'm measuring to put foam tape on the right hand side, but not on the left hand side so that it sat flush with the top of the card. So that's what I mean by middle of the road. Like part of it's glued, part of it's foam. So I did that for both of the pumpkins. For the bats and the sentiment, it does not overlap that black spider web panel, like that pattern. So I didn't have to worry about adding any glue to that. I could just put them down with foam tape and just pop them right up. I did put the little witch hat on top of the pumpkin. I thought that was cute. A nice way to just tie in another color. You know, since we have a lot of black and white going on with this card. And then in order to pull that color in further, when I did the rhinestones to accent the sentiment and kind of fill in that open space, I chose to use the purple ones. Yeah, don't regret that. I think it looks really, really nice. I did add, of course, some more shimmer to my little witch's hat and to my bats, as well as those same white highlights. That's kind of just my go-to process for adding, you know, if I'm adding detail to like really cute things, I do like to do the little white accents. I just think it gives them a lot more character. For the last card, which I'm going to be honest with you, actually ended up being my favorite, and it's not even the one that I set out to make. I think it's just because I'm a clean and simple card maker, so I really love all of the white, but it still has a lot of interest. And so basically on the press and seal, I'm just going to add some adhesive to the layer that's going to go down first. So in this case, it's going to be, you know, the bat, the pumpkins, one of the pieces of candy, the spider that's kind of falling down, and then the ghosts, 2 pieces of the candy corn and the piece of candy that's in front there, the purple one. I did pop those up on foam. What I'm doing here is I'm just adding a little shadow underneath them, and this is just going to ground the whole image so that way it doesn't look like they're just floating in space. And I did that with the same cool grays that I've been using to shade all of the whites. And then I did, you know, the shimmer and the pearls and the whole thing like I normally do. And then this is all 3 cards. So if you really are interested in these type of products, I recommend you check out the Forest Floor as well. It's the same thing, the stencils and the dies. I hope this gives you some inspiration for Halloween. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.